Welcome all the viewers. I'm Dr. Rajkumar Sharma. I'm consultant, Faculty of Political Science, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. In this session, we will be discussing the developments that happened towards the last decade before India became independent. So in this lecture, what we will be discussing is Unit 9, Unit 10, 11 and 12 from MGP 001. The name of the course is Gandhi, the Man and His Times. And Unit 9 it pertains to Communal Award and Pune Pact. Unit 10 is Constructive Program of Gandhiji. Unit 11 is Quit India Movement. And Unit 12 is about Partition of India. So starting with Unit 9, Communal Award and Pune Pact, the British, they had introduced Morley Minto Reforms Act in 1909. And by these reforms, they introduced separate electorate for Muslims in India. And it was because of these separate electorate for Muslims that, leaders of the depressed classes in India, they felt that they should demand a reservation for seats for their representatives in legislative bodies. So Morley Minto reforms, they started this trend from where, different identities started to assert themselves during the Indian national movement and that was against the British. Now, Gandhi and Congress, they, despite having their own concerns about the demands of the depressed classes, they did not support separate electorate. Now, by creating new employment opportunities and channels of mobility, the colonial rule, it started to challenge the existing Hindu caste system, because the rigidity of Hindu caste system was being challenged by the new opportunities that were being thrown open to people of India by the British rule. And because of these opportunities, there was some sort of competition between different castes, and it led to demands of assertion by the depressed classes. Now, these new things that were happening in Indian economy, they made the depressed classes conscious, and they were emboldened to assert their equality and political rights. They wanted equal treatment, not only politically but socially also, and they wanted to assert their political rights, because of which what we see a new type of politics began during this era. Now, there were a number of leaders of depressed classes which were trying to lead the movement. One of them, he made a very, very concerning statement, B.C. Mandal. The statement made by him was, the so-called patriots of India, they demand political rights, but they are not ready to give social rights to their own countrymen. This statement made by B.C. Mandal, it showed that within Hindus there are fault lines, and there is ill treatment of their fellow countrymen. And since the Indian national leaders, they are demanding political rights for India, but it also makes sense for them to give rights to their own brethren. So this politics of identity and assertion starts from here. And then, there was also some sort of competition between leaders of the depressed classes to lead the movement, because what was seen during this time is that there was a competition between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and M.C. Raja to lead the depressed classes. They both were competing to lead the depressed classes and give a shape to the movement, lead the movement. Now, and what happens during this time is that everybody was trying to take the support from the depressed classes because of their own reasons. If you see Congress was trying to secure support of depressed classes, and the reason was very, very simple, that Congress was leading the Indian national movement, so they thought that Indians should remain united. They should not be allowed to be divided internally. Indians should remain united. So they tried to appeal to the sentiments of the depressed classes. Then on the other hand, Hindu Mahasabha, they wanted to prevent disintegration of the Hindus, because if there were divisions within Hindus, then it would have some other implications. So that was one of the concerns for Hindu Mahasabha. Even for the British, they were considerate, and they were very, very concerned for the demands of the depressed classes. Why? Because the reason from their perspective was that they wanted to weaken the Indian national movement, because their policy was very, very simple: divide and rule. So they would like to divide Indians not only on the religious lines but also on the lines of caste and caste identity. So for them it was very, very simple that if they throw their weight behind the depressed classes, so naturally there will be fault lines in Indian society. Now Gandhi, as a leader, Gandhi wanted social emancipation of the depressed classes. A section of depressed classes even believed that in the absence of British, there was possibility of domination of caste Hindus. So they thought that, if there are no British, then there is in all probability the caste Hindus will dominate us, and our separate identity may not be protected. So this is how this politics was being played out at that time. Now, in this struggle between different leaders, Ambedkar emerged as a strong leader and of the depressed classes, and he attacked Congress because he said that Congress is not addressing the issues of depressed classes. He said that you may be talking about the national movement, but the concerns of the depressed classes are not being taken care of by the Congress. Now, Gandhiji, he failed to convince Ambedkar, who wanted a separate electorate. There was this debate between Gandhiji and Ambedkar, and both of them, they were not able to resolve their own issues. Gandhi supported adequate representation of depressed classes. He agreed that they should have adequate representation, but he did not stand for a separate electorate. So these were the basic points of differences between Gandhi and Ambedkar during this time. Now, what happened is that seeing this, big movement from the depressed classes, what happened that British PM Ramsay MacDonald, he announced communal award in 1932, and he said that by this communal award, what will be the provision? The provision was that there will be separate electorate for depressed classes. Now, by doing this, the British, as I just mentioned, that the British were trying to divide the Indians internally, and this was an apt moment for them to cash on the sentiment of the depressed classes. Now, the British, they justified this communal award on the grounds. They said that Indian leaders have failed to arrive on an agreement on the issue of representation of depressed classes. And they said that even during the second roundtable conference, the Indians were not able to address the issue. And this is why, since nobody was able to decide, we were the ones who decide. So we are the ones who decide, and they took this decision. So for them, it was very, very easy to keep Indians divided, and their policy reflected this. Now, this decision did not go down well with Congress and Gandhiji. And Gandhiji, he started a fast unto death. And he said that, this communal award will not be allowed to pass through, and I will struggle and I will make sure that this does not happen. So Gandhiji's decision forced Indian leaders, most of the Indian leaders, to work out a compromise formula between separate electorate and joint electorate. So because Gandhiji said that I will fast unto death, so most of the leaders were forced to seek a middle ground or compromise formula. And sensing the mood of the depressed classes, even Gandhiji agreed to accept reservation of seats in joint electorates between the caste Hindus and depressed classes. So even he made a compromise. So the point was that both the sides had to make a compromise. And listening to Gandhiji and his views, Ambedkar softened his stand after he had a meeting with Gandhiji, who was at that time at Yerwada jail. So after this meeting, there was certain softening of stand by Ambedkar, and what followed this meeting was that on September 24, 1932, Pune Pact was signed. Now, by this pact, seats were reserved for depressed classes, but they were not separate electorate. These seats were reserved for depressed classes out of the general electorates. So this was the compromise formula that came out of the Pune Pact. As he had promised, Gandhiji had ended his fast after this Pune Pact was signed, and he saw this Pune Pact as a victory of his methods, and he continued his movement for social equality. So these were the initial beginnings of assertion of their political rights by the depressed classes during the Indian national movement. Now we come to Unit 10. In Unit 10, we will be discussing about Gandhiji's constructive program, or what he used to call Rachnatmak Karyakram. So constructive is something which adds value to your life. Now this constructive program was product of Gandhiji's vision of a non-violent society. So how do you achieve a non-violent society? This was all through constructive program, or as I just mentioned, the Rachnatmak Karyakram. Now, this vision grew out of the knowledge that Gandhiji acquired through his intense travels throughout India. In last lecture, I had mentioned that when Gandhiji came back to India, he was advised by his political guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale. He told Gandhiji that you should go on a visit and meet people of India. So this, when Gandhiji met the people of India, he came across a number of problems, and after meeting these people, this is when he decided that these problems will be solved through the constructive program. Now, Gandhi was not only a revolutionary but also a practical idealist and visionary. Now, there is a little difference between a revolutionary and somebody who is a visionary, because revolutionary will get rid of the problem, but he would not have a solution or an alternate to the problem. But Gandhiji, he was a practical idealist and a visionary. So he was combination of both. He was not only a revolutionary, revolution through peaceful means, but also a visionary. He had an alternate vision in the mind. So that alternate vision was to plan the future, and how the future would be planned according to Gandhiji, that will be done through constructive program. Now, three things were important in the constructive program. The first one was that there will be removal of all kinds of exploitation from society. So that was the first point. The second would be there will be less governance. And the third would be constructive programs to remove obstacles in way of fulfilling the first two goals. So if there are certain obstacles to fulfill the first two goals, then there will be further constructive programs to address these issues. So these were the three things that were most important in the Rachanatmak Karyakram that was introduced by Gandhiji. You know, he wanted to address a number of issues that he had witnessed during his travel of India. They were like pauperism, unemployment, inequality, ignorance, filth, and disease. So he wanted to address all these issues. Then Gandhiji also believed that if the program is fully practiced, the program, constructive program, if it is fully practiced by whole country, then freedom would automatically follow without even need of civil disobedience. So he had this firm belief that we will not require civil disobedience if whole country follows the constructive program. Now, when Gandhiji returned to India from South Africa, as I mentioned, Indian society was blighted by fear. Because they were being ruled by British for centuries. So they had fear in their heart and mind. There was lack of confidence and also lack of self-respect. So these were the problems that Indians were facing. They had no confidence, they had low self-esteem. Further problems, the foreign rule since centuries, it had made the Indians divided. We were internally divided. I told you we had issues of caste on the lines of religion. We were conformist. If somebody tells us something to do, we would do that. Indians had become selfish. The moral was low. We were demoralized. There was lacking in social conscience and also civic virtues. So these were all the problems that were being faced by the Indians at that time. And above all, there was the massive problem, and that was that there was no direct involvement of masses into mainstream national movement. Because if a national movement has to succeed, then it has to be popular among the people. If public opinion is not behind you, then you cannot exert pressure on oppressive rulers like the British. So it was very, very important that if the Indian national movement had to be successful, it had to secure the support of the masses. But when Gandhiji came back to India, people were not participating in Indian national movement. The common man was cut off from the movement. So these were some of the issues that were before Gandhiji. So in 1920, Gandhiji launched the constructive program through Congress Party. And the aim of the program was to regenerate a new society on a non-violent basis by empowering the masses through training and discipline in constructive programs. So the masses, the people will be trained and they will be disciplined and they will be given new values to hold on to. And the main aim was to regenerate the society because there was degeneration of Indian society under the British rule. Now, Gandhi believed that without training in constructive work, it was impossible to offer civil disobedience, which another name would be direct action. So if you are not disciplined enough, if you do not train enough, then it is, the offer of civil disobedience, you cannot offer civil disobedience against an oppressive regime. For that, you need to be trained and you need to be disciplined. It was a pre-requirement for any satyagrahi to implicitly follow the constructive work as an integral part of non-violence. So it was very important factor for a satyagrahi to be disciplined and to be trained. Now, function of the constructive workers that were recruited, their main function was to train the masses for satyagraha. So constructive program, as you would see, that it was a well thought out strategy by Gandhiji to train the Indians, discipline them so that they are trained for satyagraha and civil disobedience. Now, the agenda of constructive program, there were a number of points that Gandhiji followed, and the agenda was very big enough. The first and primary agenda was communal unity, or what Gandhiji used to call it unbreakable unity of hearts. So one of the main agendas was to ensure that there are no divisions between Hindus and Muslims, because communal unity would ensure that both Hindus and Muslims stand one against the British rule. So this is why Gandhiji used to say that there should be unbreakable unity of hearts. The hearts should match with each other. Now, another agenda of the constructive program was removal of untouchability, because Gandhi called untouchability as a blot and curse upon Hinduism. And to eradicate the problem of untouchability, he founded Harijan Sevak Sangh in 1932. These were some of the initiatives that Gandhi was taking to eradicate these twin problems of communal problem and also untouchability. Now, another agenda that Gandhiji started was promotion of Khadi, because Khadi was seen as a symbol of nationalism, equality, economic freedom and self-reliance by Gandhiji. So in a sense, Khadi became a symbol of awakening of masses, and this became the point around which common men would be made conscious of their political rights, of their social rights and their cultural rejuvenation. Another agenda that was part of the constructive program was prohibition. And in this sense, prohibition was basically freedom from intoxicants. And Gandhiji ensured that, if people have to rejuvenate themselves, or if they require certain avenues to entertain themselves, then there would be, village fairs or things like that. But nobody should resort to ill practices like intoxicants. So these were some of the very main agenda of the constructive program. Others included village industries. Now, in village industries, to make villages self-reliant, Gandhiji was one who used to believe in Swaraj, and he believed in village industry. So he wanted that villages should be self-reliant and self-sufficient economies. So there would be certain industry within the villages like the khadi or hand grinding, hand pounding, paper industry, soap industry, etc. So that villages in themselves are self-sufficient. So this was part of his vision of Swaraj. Other measures included village sanitation. The prominent sanitation, cleanliness had a prominent place in Gandhiji's constructive program, because he gave supreme priority to both sanitation and cleanliness, because he used to believe that Indians do lack training in civic virtues. This is why he placed a prime importance on cleanliness and sanitation. There were other important points of constructive program. One of them was upliftment of women, or one can say that Gandhiji also worked for achieving equality for women. It was only because of the efforts of Gandhi that women came out of their houses for the first time and participated in the Indian political struggle, because at that time Indian women generally used to stay confined to the houses, and they would basically take care of the household work. They did not have time to come out and participate in the freedom struggle, but it was a call given by Gandhi, and following his call, the women for the first time participated and came out of their houses and participated in the freedom struggle. And Gandhiji's advice to men was that men should consider themselves as friends of women, their co-workers, but they should not consider themselves as masters. So basically he wanted equality between men and women, and his agenda for women was progressive. There were a number of other points that were included by Gandhiji in the constructive program. They included education, then provincial and national language, economic equality, Kisans, labor, students, Adivasis, all benefit and upliftment of all these sections. Then if you analyze the constructive program of Gandhiji, what comes out from this constructive program is that it was unique and universal initiative that was started by Gandhiji, because before this there was on such a mass scale, there was no efforts to bring the masses in the Indian national movement and to awaken them and to make them conscious of their political, social and cultural rejuvenation. Without these programs, it can be said that Satyagraha movement would not have been successful, and constructive program started by Gandhiji played an important part in awakening the masses. Now we move on to Unit 11, Gandhi and the Quit India movement, because Quit India movement, it can be argued, was the last major movement before India became independent. Now this movement was launched during the Second World War, and during that time, around 1942, it was becoming very, very clear that after the Second World War, the British Empire will weaken. The British PM Churchill was unwilling to accept a dismemberment of the British Empire. But the fall of British Empire, it started under Clement Attlee, and he was the one who saw decolonization of a number of countries, including India. So Quit India movement was product of Gandhiji's disillusionment with British policies during 1942. So and also the gravity of the Japanese threat that was facing India at that time. So Gandhiji, by now, he was very, very disillusioned with the British. And if you see the slogan that he gave during this Quit India movement, it was do or die. So he saw this movement as a final straw, and he told the masses that this is the make or break movement for us, and we have to participate in large numbers. Now, in Quit India movement, one of the features was that it had a less peasant participation, because this movement was basically focused on issues of nationalism. The last two movements, like non-cooperation movement, in that movement there was more participation from the peasants, but during Quit India movement that was not visible. Now, the Quit India movement was started in August 1942. Once this movement was started, the British government survived the Quit India movement as it had vast resources to suppress the movement, because the British also knew that we are facing a problem. They were fighting a war outside. They were involved in the Second World War, and they were aware that if there are major issues within India's internal problems, if there are internal problems in India, then governing India for them would become very, very difficult. So they were mentally prepared, and they were prepared to use force to any extent to suppress the Quit India movement. Now the British charged Gandhi and Congress of harboring sympathy for the Japanese. The British, they started their own propaganda, and they said that Gandhi and Congress, they have a sympathy for the Japanese, and this is why they are resorting to a mass movement at a time when the British are fighting a war, the Second World War. So they tried to bring a bad name to both Gandhi and Congress, but of course these claims were refuted by Gandhi and Congress. And what happened is that since the British government was ready to deal with the movement with an iron fist, they imprisoned all the top Congress leaders. And what happened is that since Congress leaders were in jail, it allowed the leaders of Muslim League, because they had complete freedom to propagate their views on Hindu domination and demand for Pakistan. So since Congress leaders were in jail, the Muslim League got an opportunity to mobilize masses towards their own demands, and they started to vociferously demand a creation of separate land for Muslims of the subcontinent, which was Pakistan. Now, it was the last great movement that awakened the masses to struggle against the oppressive colonial rule. So this is how Quit India movement gradually. The last unit that we discuss for today is partition of India. Now, the partition of India was an unfortunate moment that happened. Now, Gandhi brought a large number of Indian Muslims into the national movement by linking Khilafat movement and nationalist sentiment. We have discussed this in the last lecture, that Gandhi was the one who combined the two movements, Khilafat movement and the non-cooperation movement. Critics of Gandhi, they argue that use of religious issues like Khilafat was dangerous, as it encouraged extraterritorial loyalties and pan-Islamic tendencies among Indian Muslims. Now, Gandhi believed, he himself believed in spiritualizing politics, and he did not consider it essential to separate religion and politics as in the Western conception of secularism. Now, failure of Congress and League to come to a settlement, this was one of the main issues why there was partition of India. There were many. So the first one was failure of Congress and League to come to a settlement. Then was the British policy of divide and rule. Then economic and political consequences of Second World War. Then was the post-war crisis, and also polarization in society during last some years of colonial rule, which led to partition of India. Finding of one single cause for this partition of India is not possible. This is why I listed a number of causes which ultimately led to partition of India. And in the conclusion, what we can say is that no single human being brought the partition of India, or no single human being could have averted the partition, and this holds true for Gandhi as well. Thank you.